One of the Outdoor Council of Canada's priorities is to increase the number of competent leaders who can deliver quality outdoor programs in a safe manner. This is realized with our signature outdoor leadership certification courses, known as the Field Leader Program. These courses focus on foundational outdoor leadership practices that provide the basics of what is needed to take groups outdoors to offer purposeful, meaningful, and enjoyable experiences. The OCC would like to thank Mark Winfield, one of our instructors, for creating and sharing this video as a resource for the Field Leader Winter Module. Thank you, Mark.
I'm Mark Winfield, an instructor from Nova Scotia. The Field Leader Winter Module is a course to help hike leaders conduct safe and enjoyable hikes for groups in the wintertime. And this video is a supplement to that. However, I am going to be talking about things you need to bring on a winter hike, and I will not be specifically dealing with the additional materials that leaders should bring. You should refer to your course instructor and the course materials for that. When you go on any hike, it's important to tell somebody where you're going and what time you expect to be finished. If they don't hear from you, at least they'll know where to start looking for you. On all hikes that you go on, no matter what season it is, you should always take the 10 essentials. Many unexpected things can happen on a hike, and it's important to bring the tools to help you get through those issues. In addition to the essentials, you should also bring a whistle, and you should test that whistle. I have a whistle in one of the clasps on a backpack, but it doesn't work, so check your gear. I also bring a tin cup in case I need to warm up water or melt snow. An insulated pad to sit on is excellent for all seasons to keep your rear end dry and off the cold ground. An extra item that I carry in my leader's pack is a folding saw. I've used this saw, for example, to make a pair of crutches for a hiker that was injured, had a bad ankle, and it just made life a lot easier. You should always check the weather forecast before you head out because weather can be very changeable in the winter. And if you are heading in the mountains up to higher elevations, there's normally a second upper elevation forecast that can be quite different from the lower elevation forecast. In some areas, there's risk of avalanches, and if there is an avalanche forecast, you should check that also. A lot of people use hiking apps like AllTrails, and if you check the trail you're traveling on, you may find a current post that tells you about the trail conditions, which is helpful. You should bring water with you on all hikes, but using a water bladder with the drinking tube is the wrong tool for the wintertime. That tube freezes very quickly, making it useless. What you should have is a wide-mouthed container that is insulated or covered with a sock for insulation, and you store it in your bag upside down so that the opening doesn't freeze. Taking a hot drink in a thermos is a great idea. It's a nice treat, and it can also help ward off hypothermia. Good quality waterproof hiking boots are a great investment. They should be mid or high cut and should be loose fitting to allow lots of room for socks. You don't want a tight pair of boots. If you have them, hiking poles with snow baskets are always a good idea to bring along, though you may not always use them. For winter traction, it's important to make sure you've got your feet underneath you. And those cleats that you can get with the small steel dimples are the wrong tool for going into the woods with. They just do not provide adequate traction, though they're probably great for in your driveway or on the sidewalk. What you do want to have is microspikes, and they provide excellent traction in snow that's been packed or also on ice, or you may need snowshoes. When you're looking at snowshoes, there's a couple of features that you should pay extra attention to. Firstly, the harness should do a good job of keeping your boot attached to the snowshoe and should be easy to operate with mittens or gloves on. The other feature is underneath the snowshoe there should be a generous amount of steel jagged rails that give traction on ice. We still occasionally see traditional wooden snowshoes which work well on snow, but on bare ice they lack traction. You need to have with you a way to shelter yourself and stay dry if you get stuck outdoors in the winter. And one way to do that would be a sleeping bag and tarpaulin, which is very bulky and certainly would work. But another solution that's probably easier is to get a space blanket, which are inexpensive, and also to get a bivvy. And a bivvy is a sleeping bag shaped heavy-duty space blanket that, for example, you could put an injured person in, and that would keep them warm and dry. When you're packing up, don't forget to bring a spare pair of socks and mittens in case yours get wet. You should also bring a heavyweight puffer jacket with you in case you get stuck in one place standing around. And also don't forget your rain gear. Rain gear is a great insulator against losing heat to the wind and can be very effective in keeping yourself warm and dry because, of course, it can snow or rain in the winter also. The days are short in the winter, so when you're planning your hike, make sure you take that into account. And in case your trip takes a little longer, make sure you have a flashlight or headlamps so you can make your way through the darkness. When you're hiking in the winter, even if you're not in a leadership position and you're just out hiking with friends, it's important to call things the way they really are. Winter can be severe, and there's no sense in sugarcoating what you're going to be faced that day, because while you might be prepared, perhaps others are not, whether it's equipment or experience or whatever. Also, the group needs to keep an eye on each other because hypothermia and frostbites are very common risks in the winter and are serious matters. If you want to learn more about these things, we have at the Outdoor Council of Canada a winter injury review video that speaks in depth about them. In the winter, your basal metabolism can burn twice the calories that you would in the other 3 seasons, so it's even more important that you stop regularly and have snacks to keep fuel in the furnace and keep yourself hydrated so your blood flows through your body freely. Also, if you're snowshoeing, particularly if you're on unbroken trail, the person who is breaking trail, the first person on the trail, is working a lot harder than everybody else is, and common courtesy would suggest that they take turns breaking trail to spread the load. I hike a great deal in the winter, and I see people don't know how to dress in the winter and don't know how to manage their clothing, so we're going to talk about that for a few minutes. Among people that go into the outdoors in winter, there's a saying, cotton is rotten. And that means that cotton clothing is a poor choice for winter. Jeans, cotton long underwear are going to absorb moisture and retain it and make you cold. We're going to talk about clothing, and we'll start at the bottom. Here, Patty is out hiking with her snowshoes, and she has yoga pants on, which are synthetic materials, which is good. Wool is also good. And you can't tell, but underneath that, she has long underwear, which is either wool or synthetic, which is also good. The other piece of clothing that Patty has on are leg gaiters, which go up to her knees almost, and they serve 2 purposes. One is to keep your pants dry if you get snow on them, and the other is to keep snow out of your boots, and therefore keep your socks and feet dry. You should always have a good hat and a neck gaiter or scarf to keep the heat in. It's surprising how much heat you can lose above your shoulders. This is a picture of me in the winter on top of a mountain on a cold, windy day. And while you can't tell, I have 3 layers on. I have a base layer that is a long sleeve, either merino wool or synthetic material. I have a mid layer that would be fleece or could be a wool sweater. And I have my top layer that is my puffer jacket. Now I'll talk about the puffer jacket first. Not all jackets are the same. They vary with the amount of insulation that's in them. Puff jackets are filled with either feathers or down or synthetic down, and the amount of down that is put in the jacket determines how warm it is, and there is a numbering system that this table shows you. And the higher the number, the greater amount of insulation that there is in the jacket. That blue jacket that I have on happens to be a 950, so it's on the very highest end of insulation. You can also get jackets and base layer with this reflective lining, which is very effective for increasing the insulation value and keeping you warm. To get to the top of this mountain, I had a short hike through an exposed area, so I had all 3 layers on for that. And then I entered a wooded area that went most of the way up the mountain on a trail that was quite steep, so you were working quite hard. And I initially took off my puffer jacket, and then later, because I was fully sheltered from the wind in the forest, I was down to my base layer, and that's even when it was minus 10 Celsius. But I was working hard enough to keep myself warm. As I went up the mountain, when we stopped to get a drink or to have a snack, I would put my puffer jacket back on and then take it off when we started hiking again. When we got to the alpine zone, of course, the trees are stunted, so therefore we would be exposed to the wind again. So I put all 3 layers on. And then when I got to the granite plateau that was the top of the mountain, it was fully exposed and very windy. So I had all 3 layers on. The lesson here is that you need the layers, but you have to adjust as you go, depending on how hard you're working in the conditions. You would be surprised at how much body heat you generate if you are working hard. I have hiked up a mountain in my base layer in minus 35 degrees Celsius weather because the trail required me to work that hard and it kept me warm. When I stopped, I put my jacket on in a hurry, but nonetheless, your body has great power to generate heat. The purpose of managing your clothing is to avoid perspiring and creating moisture and getting yourself wet, which is going to lead to you getting cold. So if you adjust as you go, you can reduce the risk of that happening. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for reaching out to the Outdoor Council of Canada. And if you're taking a course, I wish you good luck on it. And I hope to see you on the trail. Thank you.